那个咱们联盟什么的可以太多。咱们都是跟那个人家这么
Of course, it changes the content. So it'd be like one week study, three.
今天我啊，不是他这里边还长的啊。对，还有一门叫做还有一门叫做设计的 design 和 technology 那个
我想知道老外他们开发用什么编译工具？对，
都有。
这还有一个障碍课，要不要参加？障碍课，就是有一些探险的障碍。
是一个课吗？
对。是
跑步吗？
不是跑步，就是探险吧，类似于。
哎，你的语文后来退了？
什么？
语文那课后来退了？
没了。
退了。还分多吗？还没分呢。
一开始选课没选成，然后你往这边坐一点，哥们儿，我这录着的，有点挡住了，我看。啊，到时候。
这是什么的？微型的。
对。
带录像的。
对。
这可以偷拍啊！
这不是他偷拍，
我偷拍的。
我不
是偷拍的时候借一下。这能拍多久？
几个小时吧。
几个小时啊？
对，每天我都上传YouTube了，到时候可以给你。
这个自己看可以，但是不能够。清晰吗？
还挺清晰的。
就这个是录音的吗？
可以有，对。
啊，可以。偷拍。那这是你加组呀？
你加组了没有？
没有，因为我没。他是候选的那个。
那你加到我们组，我们组缺一个人。
体验那个 edit 就可以。 把你的鞋。他现在就可以把你脚啊。
对，你就出去了，你不准备选了？
没有啊，我开玩笑啊。我已经带他们组了。
啊，行。
但是少一个人。
第几组啊？我们 D 组。Team A 吗 ？Team D。Team D。A B C D。
没有，可以自己随便挑一个，是吧？但是自己可以改，其实可以改，好像是到11，
到下个礼拜
对
截止。
10几号吧？截止。那你到本超时间了是吧？这个不要紧的，指你啦，可以。
靠大使在这里。
哦，挺好的，我们是赢了。
那就已经过了吧？
时间够。他这个这个。反正我想上班课了。开课就是这样的吧？我们去哪里？你去哪里下载？他说可以有免费的。
过5分钟了。
微信Studio是不是用最开始我们就是用那个语言也可以，它是一个多平台的跨平台的，好像还可以 Java 也可以了吧？好久没有了。反正如果你C 加Java，我想起来了，叫另一个。那是企业家，那是C或者是企业家的。我们那个是搭音的，那个软件搭音是一个。
他自己也有一个开发项目。
是吗？哦。
头上你看那个头上是这个是。
Echo。
是的，是的。
Okay, so 4:05, we'll finish on time. I won't keep it until like 10 o'clock tonight. What we're going to do today is go through some of what we did yesterday, what we spoke about yesterday, but in a more practical sense. So do some demos of creating some HTML documents and demonstrating which bits of those are important and highlighting some of that, just to sort of reinforce that. I'm also going to introduce the sort of the group work that I want you to do over the next week, which will let you practice this yourself, but with the support of other people. In your group. We'll also form those groups today before we do any of that. I'm sorry for the delay. I decided that I wanted to run on this machine so that I could record it, and then realised that none of the things that I needed were set up on these machines. It was all on my laptop. But now we're good to go, and what's the first thing we're going to do? The first thing I wanted to point out is, in case you hadn't followed it up, on this page, which is the link from yesterday's lecture, so that's the Thursday slot, there's this. There are a couple of, there's the W3 Schools Try It HTML editor. Follow the link. Gives you this this tool that lets you edit, and as you change the code in here, it can run. So this is HTML code. As you change it, it gets updated on the right, which is a useful tool for testing the things that you change and whether they do what you expect them to do. So when you put tags around things, it has an effect over here. There's a tutorial, the HTML dog tutorial, which is a fairly straightforward tutorial of the various bits that you might find useful to know about HTML. But we also recommend this playlist that Les put together of videos on lynda.com, and if you log into lynda.com, then you'll see there is a playlist of videos for various elements of web architecture training. But you see there's videos about HTML, JavaScript and jQuery, which we won't cover too much, but you might find useful. And sort of working with data on the web will be useful in terms of like you understand XML. But the key one to look at for this part of the course is the HTML Central training. You'll see there's like 6 hours worth of video there, and you can sort of jump about to various aspects of that you need to work on. So the bits that you're not sure about, you can skip into the bit about formatting paragraphs and listen to that bit of the video, and so on. So, as just sort of to highlight that in the couple of hours that I get to see you, I don't have the chance to teach you about those technical aspects in massive detail, but also this is a master's level course, so we expect you to be able to go out and discover some of this information yourself, and what we do is try and point you towards useful resources for that. So, we're going to, after I'm going to do some demonstration of HTML today, but then I'd like you guys to go away and in groups work together to have a go at this yourself. There is an exercise which is also on yesterday's one. I'll replicate it on today's edge share. It's here. And basically we give you some things that we'd like you to mark up. So we give you some plain text that we'd like you to mark up sensibly. We also ask you to pick a thing you see in everyday life, so something like an email or a receipt or a takeaway menu or something like that, and mark it up as HTML. So use HTML's elements and tags that represent the structure of the document to turn the details, the data, on one of those items into a marked up document. Okay, so you're not worried about the style or anything like that. You're not thinking about how can I make it look exactly like that original. What you're trying to do is to mark it up so that it's clear what each section is and what each part is. And there's a couple of sort of advanced parts that you might want to move on to afterwards, but the first two are sort of the key starting point. What's going to happen is I'm going to set up a hand-in on ECS's hand-in system and get you to submit those, I think, by next Thursday afternoon, and that will give me some time on Friday morning to look through them, pick out some examples of things that people did well or maybe struggled with, and then in next Friday's session, in the equivalent of this, then I'll go through some of that and I'll feed back on the highlights and possibly some of the common mistakes, if any of those happen. Okay, so that's going to be the group activity. Are there any questions about what to do? Yes?
How complex does it need to be? For example, can you use blade?
Can you use
Blade.
blade,
Yeah.
like knives?
No. Template engine.
That is too complex. You just need to write some HTML. You'll see the level of HTML that we're talking about when I run through examples today. You are not expected to do anything complex. You just need to practice the base level of marking up a document in HTML. Right, well the next task is that we should get you in groups. So this is where you get to... Get in groups, give me 2 seconds.
这个也好像也分组，这个就是2个人一组。这个没有，咱们第3个分组。啊，这个不分组。啊，
So we're going to do group forming now. If you could, on some device, follow this URL, so bit.ly/comptip218group1617. You go to that. Also, you can use the QR code. Magic. This is always fun. I'm going to QR code it as well, because I always like testing that it actually works in the back of a vector editor.
What's the mean? 把自己名字敲进去。
If you don't have that or don't have a device, don't worry, you can sign up later or sign up on find someone sitting next to you
3
sign
就
up.
到第1吧。
To be honest, all it is a Google spreadsheet. Sorry.
Question. Some of us on the IPHC team haven't been added students on the MSc website, so therefore we can't access any of your materials on EdShare, for example, because we're not enrolled on website MSc.
Do you have a university computing account? Do you get email and stuff? You can log into all of the resources using that account.
Okay.
I promise you. Come down at the end and we'll...
I can see the page there, we can do your link to go to your resources.
Can you get to this page? You get to that page, and then you get to... Ricky. This page.
When I get to there, it says I don't have access to them.
拿电脑改。
So you see...
我电脑改。
So literally everything goes. Not even. Let's do our technical issues after the lecture, but I will
一个表格
not
啊，
go
就
until you have access to that, okay?
看不到。
The
I
resources
think it's
help.
because I've been added as a student on the MSc program.
It shouldn't make a difference. They should be available for everyone. So,
就把自己的名字写进去。
choose a group number,
对。
type your name into a box next to
That's
it,
a-
try and remove the right
take
together.
one.
There are in theory 56 of you, so there should be 14 groups of 4. Choose your own groups, yeah, I'm not going to force any grouping on you. You're going to have to informally learn with these people, so choose someone that you like spare spending moments with.
下载这个软件才可以。
你能下载吗？装上去。
先下载那个软件。
我不知道在哪儿啊。
现在我看你先下载那个表，用下载打开。
You don't have to finish this right now. At some point after the lecture, find yourself a group, make sure
上传上了。
没上。电脑也没。你知道那个地址吗？
不知道地址。
那我上不去。
这个 APP 是多下吧？下了个图片，搜进去。
Come on, that's not many of you, is it? By Monday, I want you all to be in a group. You don't have to do it now. I'll send out an email reminder with the link and so on, so you can access it. So you don't have to do it right now. So the idea is that you meet with the people in your group at some point during the week and spend an hour or two maybe working on the challenge. It shouldn't take long. This isn't you spending 25 hours trying to build a mega site. You're spending an hour or two trying to do the exercise just to make sure that you can do it and that you're aware of the technical skills and you can reproduce them yourself. Okay, so let's close that. I'll keep it open. We can look at the end of the lab to see how it's
你去哪儿？咱
Okay, so next job.
必须手机改。
Let's just remind you a little bit about HTML, and then we can have a look at demonstrating HTML. So,
可以去弄。
who can tell me what HTML is? Someone recap from yesterday what HTML is. What was I talking about yesterday? Markup language. What do we mean by markup language? What does that embody? What does that let us do?
At the first level, it tells any system how to interpret the data.
Absolutely, yep. So it's some information for a machine or a computer or a piece of software to tell it about the data that's in there. Very good. And what does HTML describe in particular?
Web pages.
Web pages. Yep, absolutely. Part of the name hypertext. HTML. The HT stands for hypertext. Web pages are a type of system called a hypertext, and that means they link to each other. So the language HTML, the markup language, is a language that supports being able to link pages together, and it allows you to represent a document in that format. What goes in an HTML page? Like what is the markup? What do we call those things that we use for markup? Tags. Excellent. And attributes. Yeah. So attributes are an element of a tag, or a part of a tag. Tags are sort of the text that we type in the document is the tag, but they represent an HTML element. And what, sorry?
Syntax?
Syntax. So syntax describes how we type these things to indicate that we've got an element of attribute. So the rules behind that, you've got to have some angle brackets, you've got to have a tag name, and so on. That's our syntax. Excellent. Are there any questions about HTML? Anything that we're not sure about from yesterday's lecture? Okay. So I've got a couple of activities that we're going to do. I'm going to introduce what the basic structure of a very empty HTML page looks like, and we'll see what that displays as, and we'll talk about a couple of the tags that are available that we'll typically use. And after that, then we'll fill it in. We'll get you to suggest something that we're going to fill it in with, and we'll build an HTML page out of that. And I think what we'll do after that is look at some existing text, and we'll mark that up to try and get it closer to what the web page that the text was originally from. So, right, what does a web page basic structure look like?
Which one? Which platform?
You can go HTML5. Are you trying to answer the question? Tell me.
No, I'm asking.
Okay. So at its basic level, an HTML document has to have an HTML element as its highest level. So the top level of our document has to be HTML. So if you remember, we can represent these things as a hierarchical tree diagram. That means we have to have a HTML tag at the top level of our document. So, can you read that text all right? And as I was saying yesterday, you always have an open tag, you always have a closed tag. The distinction between those is that one of them has a slash as part of the name, so the closed tag has a /. Remember, it has to be a / rather than a backslash, so that's correct, but that's wrong. So that's what we're looking for. And if we save that, we have a valid HTML document, but it doesn't really do anything yet. So where are we? 10. And there we go. There is our jazzy HTML document that has no information in it at all. There are then typically two elements that we have to have in the next level. These elements are the head tag and the body tag, and these have two separate purposes. So we have a head section, and we have a close tag for that, and as a child to it, as a sibling to it, we have a body tag. Now, what's the distinction here? Well, the body tag is where the content of this page goes, the visible and the renderable, viewable content.
When we do our HTML stuff, are we doing it in this thing you're using now?
You can use any text editor that you want, so anything that lets you edit text.
Which one do you suggest?
Yeah.
Sublime?
That is a can of worms. I personally prefer Sublime, which is why I'm using it.
Can I use Atom?
Sorry?
Can I use Atom?
Yep, you can use Atom. Atom's very good.
Can you give a suggestion to someone who has literally no computer background whatsoever?
Notepad.
You can use Notepad. To be honest, I'd use something like Atom brackets or Sublime because you'll get the highlighting of the tags. It's a software that you download. Notes from the web page of this website. I can post a link to these as well. You feel like you're learning and gives you any. You'll get there.
确定性。
So this is a very good question, a very appropriate question. What software do we do use? The answer is anything that lets you edit text, but lets you edit plain text. So Microsoft Word does the opposite of this. Microsoft Word lets you edit complex visual, sort of almost desktop published design text. That's more than we need. We don't need anything to the complexity of Microsoft Word. What we do need is something that lets us edit text and supports us doing that for HTML. My recommendations are one of these pieces of software, Sublime, Atom or Brackets. You can download them. If you Google for them, you'll find their web pages. You can download them from their web pages, and they all work on all the major platforms. So they'll have versions for Mac and Linux and Windows. And they will give you a piece of software that looks a bit like this. They'll typically have some numbers down the side which indicates which line number you're on. That's useful for debugging problems as you go. And they typically will do this thing called syntax highlighting. It's a term from programming software. And what that means is when you've got an aspect of what you're typing that is part of the language as opposed to the content. So in this case, in your HTML pages, the tags, the elements that you're typing, it will change the colour of those. And that can be useful because if you typed it wrong, it works anyway. But if you've forgotten the angle bracket, then you'll notice from the syntax highlighting that it doesn't look as you expect. So when it's working, it all looks consistent, and when you've got a problem in it, then you have, or if you've got a round bracket or something like that, the syntax highlighting can help you notice mistakes like that. Okay, so distinction between these two sections. Everything that goes in the body tag here will get drawn, will get rendered into the page, and everything that goes in the head tag is sort of metadata to do with your page. So this is where you put things like the title, sometimes like keywords that might be useful for search engines. Well, that tends to be used less and less by the search engines. They look at the content, mostly because you can lie in your head tag about what the content of your page is. It'll also have things like links to other versions of this page. So if this page is also available as an XML version, or it's available as RDF, or available as an RSS feed, or something like that, you might put that in the head part. So typically, the most basic thing you need to have in there is a title tag. And that will have the text that will appear up here. You'll see when we refresh the page, so I save that, refresh this page, and we get what I put in there appears as part of the browser's tab, but not as part of the content in the page. If I wanted something in the page, I'd have to put it in here. And I can put things in there without any tags, and it will appear in most browsers, but that is not the intended use of this. What you should be doing is putting tags around these things. So if we put Ricky's first web page, there we go. Yep. You'll see I have used a tag to indicate the structure of this, and I've used the H1 tag to indicate this is the highest heading on my page within this document. If I then wanted to put some other text, I'd probably use a paragraph. So, Ricky is teaching. And remember, open and close the tags as you go. Make sure that you have all of the open and close tags for each part. There we go. So now we've got a heading and we have some text within there. What we're going to do to expand this out is run through an example. But what I want is an example from you guys. I'm going to get you to spend 30 seconds trying to think of a family-friendly fable or nursery rhyme that we're then going to mark up. So 30 seconds, discuss with the people around you, come up with a famous sort of nursery rhyme, fable type story, short story, one that we can recount quickly enough to make a web page of, and then we'll come back in. So go, 30 seconds, try and figure out.
Come on,没听着。那好。哎，还有我们讨论干嘛？
你俩听见了吗？
我没听到。我就在喊。
都没听懂。就说他刚刚。他也就讲讲标题段落什么的吧，我觉得那应该没什么，没什么。我就看脸，刚才他就拍你的帖子了，说人了是吧？先抓人那个手绘教练，他也没有。有的9点多到的时候，不关系可以吗？这电脑上面多忙那个，工作是跟那个事情多的，看着登录
Okay, right, let's have you back in. I want some suggestions, and then we're going to vote on them. I'm going to take 3 suggestions. Right, let's have a suggestion. Go on, Ian.
Ring around the rosies.
Ring Around the Roses. Is that it's a song, isn't it? Yeah. Ring Around the Roses. Yeah, it's a bit dark.
Roll with it.
Tell us about it. What's the moral? What do we learn about this?
Don't die if people on play.
Yeah. Don't sneeze on people, I think it is. It's an important life lesson. Right, let's have another one.
Humpty Dumpty.
Humpty Dumpty, very good. What's the key narrative arc of Humpty Dumpty? I learned from Humpty Dumpty not to be an egg. I thought that was very clever. Most people can survive falling off a quite short wall, but Humpty Dumpty really, really struggled with it. Right, let's have one more. Jack and Jill. What did Jack and Jill do? Oh, Steve, what then happened?
They go down and broke their can.
Excellent. Okay, right, we've got 3. We're going to have to vote on them to decide which one we're going to turn into. HTML.
I don't know any of them.
Don't know any of them, no.
I didn't go to nursery, man. I only came here like year 11.
What, to the university?
No, as in like, English.
We'll get to them in a just pick the one that sounds silliest. Right, we're going to have a vote. You're going to have to do a show of hands to decide which one of these we're going to use. Right, Ring Around the Roses. Who wants to do that? Hands up. 1.5. Fully behind your 3. There we go.
不懂。
Single figures. Okay, Humpty Dumpty. Hands up if you want to do Humpty Dumpty. Keep it up, all the way up, all the way up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
都不知道，让你选一个吧。
我看这都什么呀？看不懂，看看民谣吧。
And Jack and Jill, who wants to do Jack and Jill? Hands up. Hands up, all the way up, touch the ceiling. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
总得选一个啊。
So we've only got 25 people here. That's what do the rest of you want to do? Abstaining. Abstention.
I move that the abstentions count for ringing around the roses.
Me too.
Over 22, 25, and a 50, what did I say, 56 in the course? Well, that's 31. Shocking. Shocking. Reopen, maybe that should be reopen nominations. Right, okay, so Humpty Dumpty is the clear winner there. Who told you Humpty Dumpty? Very good, right. It's your responsibility to tell us about Humpty Dumpty. What the key points in Humpty Dumpty?
He sat on a wall and he fell off and King's horse couldn't put it together again.
So sat on a
Press
wall.
that.
Sat on a wall. Sat on a wall, then what do you do?
King fell off.
Fell off. And then what? What was the resolution of...
They couldn't put it back together again.
Failure. Okay, right. It's quite a depressing story. Okay, so let's... we've got an HTML page, we've got a structure, let's get rid of the nonsense. So how are we going to structure this as HTML? Let's have some suggestions. Huh? Yeah, so we've got title in there.
很多很样，看一下。搞笑吗？
Humpty up there. We have some sort of title in our context.
什么意思？Humpty Dumpty。
Right, what sort of tag are we going to use for the title? Why H1? Absolutely. So that's a good point, guys. It's worth noting. With heading tags, there's a series. There are 6 heading tags. H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, H6. And heading 1 is the biggest. So it's the highest level heading. Heading 6 is the lowest level. And really, as you go through sections nested inside each other, then the heading should appropriately nest. So heading 1, that's going to be Humpty Dumpty, isn't it? Humpty Dumpty. I'll spell tail of Humpty Dumpty. So remember, let's close that tag. We've got a heading. Right, what's the next thing we're going to have? Should we divide this into sections? We've sort of got three sections to this, haven't we? Is that right? So what are our sections going to be? And what denotes a section within documents? So paragraphs and chapters. Do we have a concept of chapters in HTML?
Yeah.
Do we? Yes.
Smaller headings?
Very good, yeah. So we can use smaller headings to denote the start sections. So we can have a smaller heading for H2 for each of these. So the Odyssey of the Wall. And then within that section, what are we gonna have more information about this? So what's the tag to let us? P. Very good. What does that mean? What does P stand for?
Paragraph.
Very good. It is paragraph. So let's close one as well. So there we go. We got an empty paragraph. So what's the line from that? So at the start of time, Humpty sat on a wall. He gave. Is Humpty male? He gave little thought to the dangers of this precarious. Okay, so section 1's done. We've got a title. We've got some text that goes into that. We should probably have another. He did sat wall. Wall. There we go. Typing in front of an audience is like the hardest thing. I've programmed in front of audiences as well, and it's not fun at all. So what do we do next? What else goes in our document? What do we have after this?
H2 heading?
Yeah, excellent. So we should probably have another section to talk about the next part of the story. What's the next part? And then what? Yep, P paragraph. Inevitably, gravity took over, dragged Doom, yeah, I do. Excellent. P.
是一个神话故
We
事
should
啊。
probably, let's save that and refresh. We should probably have a final section as well. What's this going to be? Failure. H2. Kings. Horses. Horses? Why would the horses help them? What horses are going to do? Oh, are they? Well, what the horses are going to do? Or will the horses just get...
我来查一下 computer
King's horses attempted futilely shot.
这样汉普是一个比例，一个什么神话故事当中被摔得粉碎，蛋形矮胖子。
So, the important thing about these sort of stories is that they have a moral. Probably multiple morals from this. In this paragraph, we're going to have a list
哪个是单词呀？
of things that Humpty should have learned from this. Or that we
就
should
这个
learn.
人，
What
你
we
看
can
这
do
个
is
有大人收
HTML,
拾，
we can have
他是一个人。
denoted by UL, unordered list. And within an unordered list, you have li items. In fact, within all lists, you have li items. And that gives you a bullet point. So if you want bullet pointed things, UL is your friend. If you want numbered lists, you go for OL, ordered list. Sorry, do you want that? That's all unordered, right? And that is ordered. There we go, and that'll get you a 1. And we've probably got some things, don't set on walls. Don't be an egg. Horses can't stick, can't use glue.
You're missing a step there, Ricky.
Sorry?
There is a connection between the horses and the glue.
Yeah, we're going to leave that. That is an undertone. Yes, please.
Why didn't you just use the lorem ipsum? Like.
Wait, didn't I? Because that's much less interesting than Humpty Dumpty. Well, okay, so what do you want to know about HTML that we haven't got across in this? We can explore some more depth to HTML through this. Sorry? Marquee tag doesn't exist anymore. Oh, it shouldn't. What should we put in the marquee tag then? Let's put this marquee just to help. Don't ever use this tag. Don't ever use this tag. You're not listening. Don't ever use this tag. Oh yeah. Don't ever use this tag. Instant 0 if you ever use that tag. I wanted to show that because this was an example of that that bloating we were. Where are we now? The bloating that we saw through like the middle versions of HTML on the way to HTML5. There are some tags that are just superfluous. They don't really help you structure a document. Like there is no part of a document you wouldn't use in Word or anything like that. You wouldn't say, oh, this is the marquee section of my document. There is no purpose to that tag, to structuring your document. It's purely visual. It's purely to tell the browser that you wanted to do some form of animation with it. And that's not the purpose of HTML. HTML's point is to structure the document. You might use other things. You might use styling, or you might use JavaScript to animate, but the purpose of the raw HTML language is to mark up the document. Do you have a? You got your phone ready? Did you have a thing that you wanted to see? So probably the only thing we haven't seen yet which is of general use, is the image tag. And this is an example of one of those tags that doesn't have content. It just has a it doesn't have content. It's like a singleton. It doesn't have anything between the image open and closed, and that means you have IMG and you have a slash and a closing angle bracket to make this tag work. What you do is you use the attributes src to indicate the file where you want to view the image. So we're going to get that PNG that was the QR code. I think that's hold that. I've got a better idea. Let's get a picture of an egg. Look at it falling off that wall. There we go. Now we've got that image.
JPEG and then you
Save it as whatever format it already is in. So download, or you can use the URL. So what I could do, let's demonstrate that. So if we go to view image, it'll come up with this. It'll have a link at the top of the URL. I can drop that straight in, and it will work. So I can do that, and it will be the entire size of the page down here. Look. But that's fine because there are also attributes that let us set the size. This is a little bit naughty. We should use styling to do this. I'll teach you CSS in a couple of weeks. So if I went width 50%, then suddenly our image fits the size. So image tag is a very good example of a singleton approach. So there's no data inside the open and close tag, and it also has some attributes that are important. Right, John.
Are we being set on this?
What, on this lecture?
No.
You're failing this lecture, Jonathan.
Are we having an assessment on HTML?
Elements of it. In the REST coursework, you will generate some documentation. That documentation will have to be in HTML.
How strict are you going to be on the use of backslashes for like the image tags and the like?
The documentation you create is generally quite big, so I won't be too pernickety. I'll be looking for like general understanding of can you structure a document in a sensible way. Like if you put everything in a like if your documentation is just one big image and all of the text is in the image and you've just included an image in your HTML, you've failed a bit about whether you can structure a document in HTML. As long as you structure a document sensibly, you'll be okay.
Why is it bad to recite the images in HTML?
Because it's that issue of HTML should be there for structuring the document and indicating what goes in the document, and this is a presentation issue. That is something that should be handled by style in CSS.
It's more of a protocol thing than a technical downside. It's more like a protocol thing than a technical downside.
Yeah, it's part of this idea of separating your concerns. So where a lot of engineering approaches trying to separate what part of technology deals with a thing, and in this case you're using HTML to deal with the document structure, and you're using CSS to deal with the presentation. And separating those has benefits. I'll talk about that when we do CSS. Yeah, thanks.
Isn't it kind of like illegal because you have to put that old sort of...
Yes, right.
Because otherwise it's not really accessible, and then you're going against the truth because whatever should be able to...
Yeah, very good point. So, part of the disability discrimination act, it's changed name. The update to that act is that web pages should be accessible so that people who have various differences in ability are still able to use it. The image tag has an important attribute, and that is alt, ALT, and in that you put a text description so that someone who isn't able to view that image or isn't able to load that image can still receive some indication of what's going on in that image and what the key point is.
I was going to say, but if someone can't see, they clearly never see Dante dancing. If you say can't see Dante falling off, they'll still not know what's going on.
But they'll have read the rest of the story, so... contextually, they'll know there is a character called Humpty Dumpty, and they will have determined from the story that Humpty Dumpty is an egg and shouldn't be sitting on a wall. So the reason that you put this addition in text is because of screen readers. So the software that speaks out audibly recounts the page can indicate.
Yeah, instead of like, you know, when you've got boxes and you...
Hang on guys, can you stop whispering while other people are talking?
When you attach a document with boxes and using div tags and IDs and...
What's the benefit of that? Why do you want to do that?
Because I can see the fraction, it's better to size them.
So you can't not use that. So div tags are an appropriate step for structuring pages that have lots of information in. What I recommend is where you can use things like the article tag and the various section tags in HTML5 because they're semantically a little bit clearer than just using a div tag. So a div tag is a block tag like a paragraph, except it has no discernible semantics. It's just a block as opposed to a block that means something. The p tag is a block that means a paragraph, but a div tag has no explanation of what's in there other than by using attributes to explain it. So if you're using a div tag to represent a section, which is done here, so we could put a section in, then use the section tag to indicate that. And that adds more semantics to the structure of your Okay, right. Definitely over time. I'm sorry I've taken us to 10 to. That's the end of the HTML demonstration. Remember to join those groups on the... How many groups? 4 in a group, please. And I will send an email reminding you of what the activity is, where the information is, where the spreadsheet is to log in, how to sign up, and when you have to submit by. So check your emails for the next couple of days.
对，还有电文那才知道你的邮件。对，下一节课。